Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Chuck Shelby, Risk Management Commodities. We're seeing some mixed trade in both corn and livestock futures trade this morning. We'll start off in the grains here, where soybeans have bounced a little bit, corn's lower. We're kind of mixed in that wheat market. But Chuck, let's talk about the wheat market first of all. We've had such a good run here. You know, we're seeing maybe a little consolidation. Are we due for a correction? Is that all that this is?
Well, the wheat market pretty much shot straight up for a while. So, this correction here seems to be justified, trying to hold that $6 level on the July wheat. So if we can accomplish that, we went through the end of the month and deliveries. So I think we're probably going to stabilize here and can show a little bit of recovery as we move into the month of May.
Yeah, we had some heavy deliveries on first notice day in Chicago wheat, that's for sure. And obviously, that was a bit of a problem for the soybean and the soybean oil market yesterday. We did have heavy deliveries again on soybean oil. So the fact that we're up here this morning is actually somewhat encouraging in beans and oil.
Well, it seems like the markets want to over exaggerate whatever direction they're going, and that break in the soybeans, just like we had in wheat and soybean oil, was certainly, pretty significant. So as we enter the new month again here, we've kind of washed out anybody who was long here and looking for some buyers here, some bargain basement buying. So I think same as in the wheat, soybeans have a reason to see some recovery going.
Okay. So you think part of the sell-off in soybeans yesterday was just, it was end of the month, people had to be out of contracts or they had to roll too, right?
Yeah, there's still some basis contracts that guys were in the May. That was part of the reason too. So it's just a multitude of things. As we looked into the markets yesterday, a lot of commodities, most all of them were down. So it wasn't they were just not picking on the grain markets. It was in a lot of commodities.
Right. It was definitely a risk-off day, especially with the stock market down as hard as it was. I also wonder, in terms of soybeans and especially soybean oil, which had such an incredible sell-off for 2 days in a row, was some of that market pricing in this GREET model that was released yesterday? Because that seemed to be fairly disappointing.
Yeah, I guess the market did a good job of anticipating the challenges of the GREET model. So as a producer myself, when you look at the requirements to accomplish that, I mean, when you have to do all 3 in corn or 2 in soybeans, that's a little bit challenging. So I don't know how that works out in the long run. But the market felt those requirements would make it challenging. And obviously going forward, those may change in the next round for next year. But currently, market passed all the negative news. I think a multitude of them came together at one point yesterday and made all these markets softer yesterday.
Yeah. Well, sustainable aviation fuel, the soybean oil market has been riding on that wave for a while here. So now that we have at least know where we're at, maybe we can start to stabilize things. What about the corn market? Do you think corn is disappointed in the SAF requirements for corn ethanol in the GREET model, or is that a function of the lower crude oil market this morning?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a combination of the two. As you go forward, again, implementing these ideas are maybe easier said than done. And the other problem, I think, is if you're going to do this on a wide scale, it's going to be challenging and take farmers and producers a while to get there. So, again, a combination of things that came together. I think one thing the corn market might look forward to is planting progress. I know we're on pace now, but going forward, if this weather lasts another 2 weeks, as some meteorologists might predict, maybe down the road, corn gets a little bit of support from ideas that it's going to be a little later planted crop, and certainly the summer weather will be more critical to yield then.
Yeah. So what do you have planted there in Indiana on your farm, and what's that area looking like?
We're about 5% planted on corn and 15 on beans. Basically, we had a couple of days, we got some things in, but ever since then, about every 3 days when it dries out, more rain's coming. Probably tomorrow in Indiana, there'll be some guys that will be able to get out and go. But producers get a little bit antsy here, especially in Indiana, that a little frustrating. We haven't been able to get out and do the planting like we'd like to normally.
Yeah. So how long do we have to have delays, Chuck, before the market will start to notice it?
I think probably, if we're not 75%, 80% done by as we move towards the end of May, then I think that would give the market some concern. One thing, there were ideas that producers were going to plant more corn acres if the weather was fit and got out there and weren't able to go right through. But I think with this kind of weather pattern, I do believe corn acres will be held in check here, and maybe at the end of the day, there may be a few more bean acres if this lasts several more weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you feel like this is setting up like 2019 because there's already talk about it?
I don't think so. I mean, it's not, the fields are damp and, you don't want to push it out there. It's not like they're extremely muddy like they were in 19 where you could barely get across the field. So it's not that bad yet. The temperatures are nice and warm. So I don't see it as being anywhere close to 2019.
Okay. What about this cattle market? Of course, we've pulled back here with, more H5N1 headlines. Now that USDA is testing ground beef, the market really didn't like that, did it?
No, and it just if it is found, it's just another negative, and consumers are pretty sensitive, some of them, to that kind of information. So I think the beef market has just pulled back with concerns that if something happens, those headlines could be more negative. I think one of the positives as we head here towards Memorial Day holiday, the demand should pick up with warm weather. The grilling season should be a good, strong one. But right now, it's the unknown, and unknowns are definitely not good for markets.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to kind of hold the support areas here, though, for the time being?
I think we've had a pretty good liquidation here. Again, I think if we did find some cases and, they tested and they find something, and I could see another leg lower in the futures market. But right now, I think it's kind of settled down, but it's still hanging over the head of this market.
Yeah. And certainly last week's higher cash trade gave the market a boost. And with the market or the futures pulling back now, do you think it kind of squelches the idea that we could see steady to higher cash again this week? Or?
Well, I do believe, consumers, and if nothing happens here as we move into that holiday season, I think we're going to see a pretty good demand, and I think that's a positive in the market. We just don't know if we're going to find USDA find something.
Right. So the hog market up a little bit today. Like I said, cattle lower, hogs a little higher there. Do you think the pork market has kind of almost benefited from this HPAI news or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a combination with pork being cheaper cut than, beef at the supermarket. So, pork's got several things going in the positive camp here. Also, the funds have been along that market. So, currently, pork is in a good position, I think, to kind of fill a void here, depending upon what happens with USDA testing on beef.
Yeah. The only thing that looks like a little bit of a concern here, futures are at a premium to the lean hog index, which is kind of slowly drifting lower. So is that something that the funds are watching?
Well, I think so. I think the other thing, though, as we move into, again, the grilling season, does the demand for pork pick up, or will demand for pork pick up if we find it's a problem with USDA testing? So I'm pretty supportive on the hogs here. I don't think they would, fall apart here. The funds, I think they're pretty solid in their positions. Will hang in that positions for a while. So we'll see how those two come together as we move forward into the next 30 days.
Yeah, they're pretty long in that market right now for sure. All right. Thanks so much, Chuck Shelby with Risk Management Commodities. That is Markets Now.